Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you do have questions at the end, there's a little diamond toolkit for you, as long as it's not too hard of a question. Usually, actually, I'm sorting diamonds at a desk, so this is a great change of scenery, a little bit different for me. And just to mention, I want to like to thank Dr. Cartier as well for that wonderful introduction. I want to thank the Inhorgenta community for your support and allowing me to be here today. There's a couple of people I have to acknowledge that helped me get here today. It was actually Bruno from Mojo Design, Chris from Designer Diamonds. Sure, there he is. And actually Dorothy Rosen in Halifax, Canada actually introduced me to a lot of the German community. And I have to mention, my parents actually immigrated from Belgium to Canada, so it's kind of cool me being in Europe, kind of talking about Canadian diamonds. And of course, the Canadian diamond from the edge of the Arctic Circle to you. So the goal for me today is to provide an overview of the Canadian diamond journey. More importantly, it's about giving you ideas, a way to integrate the Canadian diamond journey into your own story with your clients. It's about adding value and enhancing your brand. It's also about us earning trust with our customers every day. As business owners, trust is the core of our foundation, and we must work at it and earn it. Also, it's about using tools and to help us add to your brand and your story. Sorry, I forgot my glasses here. That would help. So I'll touch a little bit on the Canadian diamond mines, the relationship to the Indigenous people, their connection to the wildlife. We'll discuss a little bit of the tracking systems and how Canadian diamonds are tracked, mined to market. So this part of our story is our responsibility of the journey of Canadian diamonds, our natural resources, and how it affects the people and the environment. So you ask, why Canadian diamonds? So I'll go over this a little bit more detail in the slides to come, but they are ethical and conflict-free. You have traceability options, so each diamond can be tracked to its origin. They have environmental and social responsible oversight by the government. They have very unique geological properties. They're known for their quality, and their aesthetic appeal of these diamonds are very noteworthy. And actually, these are 5 Canadian rough that I was able to purchase, cut and polish, and do all the tracing and tracking. And actually, there's still a few left to be purchased. As well as, Canadian diamonds are the oldest in the world at 3.5 billion years old. And we have to thank Raluca from the Natural Diamond Council, because she had a talk yesterday on that, and they provide very much of this information for us. Canada produces 14% of the world's natural diamonds, so we're the 3rd largest diamond producers. And mines have spent billions of dollars on local Indigenous businesses, environmental stewardship, and socioeconomic benefits in collaboration with the governments. And so there has to be also a way we trace these Canadian diamonds. So my journey is rooted in the sense of responsibility and stewardship of Canada's natural diamond resources. Given that 90% of Canadian diamonds rough are leaving our country. So I'm committed to ensuring their honest tracking, facilitating their efficient return to your stores as directly as possible, so that you can leverage the origin and build trust with your customers. Personally, tracking the Canadian diamonds backwards through the supply chain, from the cutting and polishing centers in India and back through the rough auction houses, and ultimately to the mines. So if we have to start from the Canadian diamond mines, we really have to start from the edge of the Arctic Circle. So I love imagery, so here's a video from Rio Tinto of Vantyghem mine in the Northwest Territories, and we'll just take a look here. They give to turn up the volume.
Beautiful, man. This is the north. It is very stark. It is very beautiful.
It's August and it's freezing. We are strong, we survive crazy winters, and we actually not only survive, but we thrive. We still get out there in -40 and hop on the skidoos and do the hunting, do the camping, do the fishing.
I am one of those Canadians that are very proud to be Canadian. Super proud to be a Northerner and have these mines and being able to work here and know that it's clean mining up with regulations.
Canada stands for a certain amount of standard of human rights and labor force and environment. The fact that we're taking it out of such a pristine environment and we're being so responsible, how we're doing it, keeping lots of the communities involved. They know those stones are sought after because of the Canadian diamond story.
As a Canadian being up here and getting to see it, you have a sense of responsibility over it. I wouldn't say ownership, I'd say responsibility.
You're in locations where a very, very, very small percentage of the population even can contemplate what it's like up here. So it's absolutely been an incredible journey for me, and it's something that I've been very proud of and very fortunate to be a part of.
So I'll briefly review in the next slide some of the attributes and value add to Canadian diamonds. The remoteness of the Canadian diamond mines, 3 of the Canadian diamond mines in operation, the people, the culture, the wildlife, the environment, and kind of the overall effects on the economy. So I have to confess, I've yet to visit a Canadian diamond mine in person. It's actually quite a challenging endeavor, as you can see here on the map, and its remote nature. Despite it being in my backyard, it's not very easily accessible. To put it in perspective, actually, my trip from Toronto to Munich kind of was around 10 hours. So visiting one of the 3 Canadian mines in the Northwest Territories, it would take about the same time. So a direct flight to Yellowknife, and followed by another flight to the Snare Lake area, and accompanying air transport to either of the mines in the Lac de Grasse region. They're only accessible by air or a seasonal ice road that's built annually 8 to 9 weeks of the year that is available, further illustrating the vastness of our country and the remote nature of these locations. But I'm determined to get there, so I'm working on it, don't worry. The geographical context sets the stage for a discussion about the 3 mines, the communities, the individuals involved, and their operations on the impact of the wildlife and the environment. The preference is to collaborate with mining companies that focus on a single diamond source, as this approach significantly enhances the integrity and efficiency of any tracking system. So here are the Canadian diamond mines currently in operation and a few attributes of each. So you have the Ekati mine, actually is derived from the word meaning fat lake. It's currently owned by the Burgundy Diamond Mine. Production began in 1998, contributes 4% of the world's total diamond supply. 33% of the employees are Indigenous, and significant investment in Indigenous and Northern-owned businesses. Then you have the Vantyghem mine, which is actually owned by Rio Tinto. Production began in 2003. Operates under environmental agreements with local Indigenous groups. Mine is actually expected to close in 2026 and is recognized for high-quality diamonds and a key player in the Canadian diamond industry. Then you have the Gahcho mine, which the word meaning is place of the big rabbit. It's actually a joint venture between De Beers and Mountain Province. Commercial production began in 2017, expected to produce 54 million carats in the next 11 years. Employs 530 full-time workers, operates under agreements with the Indigenous groups, and is one of Canada's largest and newest diamond operation, enhancing the global diamond production standing. So by working with these specific operations, you can offer your customers a level of transparency and authenticity that is increasingly valued in today's market. We continue our Canadian diamond journey. You have seen where the Canadian diamonds come from, but more importantly, how is it connected to the people, the Indigenous community? Canadian diamond mines have implemented several measures to support the Indigenous population and communities. And here's just a few points and some examples I'll give of each. Employment opportunity. So Canada's mining industry is proportionally the largest employer of Indigenous people in the country. You have business development. So for instance, Vantyghem has entered into long-term operations contracts with Indigenous businesses. You have training and skill development. So Ekati operates in community consultation and capacity building programs. You have community investment. So Vantyghem, for instance, invests $5 million annually in such programs. You have cultural awareness, environmental stewardship. So for instance, you have an organization of 6 indigenous nations that monitors the impact of the Gahcho diamond mine. Socioeconomic agreements. So these initiatives aim to ensure the indigenous communities benefit from the presence of diamond mines while also preserving their culture and environment. So you can see how one can have a passion for Canadian diamond mines and Canadian diamonds and what and who they represent. So I like to respect this as they travel through the chain of custody. You have to turn up the volume a little bit.
Diamonds are hard, lovely for ladies, and it's good for the people of the north at this time here. I hope we find more, and we'll work on that.
You know, it's such an amazing experience to see what the industry has done for our people, for our communities. You know, you hear people saying this has allowed me to stay in the north and raise families and contribute. That's a significant part of what the diamond mining industry has done for us. You know, it's such an amazing...
As for the wildlife and the environment, I have to say, regardless, we can't deny open pit mining and these tolls that these operations take on the environment. But here are some of what is covered. Canadian diamond mines implemented several measures to support the wildlife and the environment. So under environmental monitoring programs, so these programs track impacts on caribou, grizzly bear, wolves, and other wildlife in the mining area. You have habitat preservation. So actually, mine closure agreements require returning the landscape to its original condition after the mining operation ends, which we'll see with the Vantyghem mine in 2026. Collaborative research with government agencies and universities. You have carbon footprint reduction, so efforts to offset carbon emissions through wind farms, carbon offset taxes, and solar energy projects. Regulatory compliance. There's so much oversight from just not the mines, but the government all working together. This can give you the confidence in the idea of responsibly mined, ethically sourced Canadian diamonds. Here's one of the ice roads, only open 8 to 9 weeks of the year on the lake. So it's kind of a cool little perspective.
That's definitely a issue.
And a lot of what I just spoke about is connected as well to the economy of the Northwest Territories. You can see how these are measures in place from the Canadian diamond mines as well as the Canadian government regulatory frameworks. And now, as we leave the Canadian diamond borders, we begin the journey on the way to you. So through the implementation of tracking systems at the point of rough diamond unsealing, a close collaboration with manufacturers in India who adhere to these standards, we gain a more comprehensive understanding of the rough to polished diamond journey and its traceability. This process involves multiple checks and balances throughout the supply chain. My goal is to ensure that the Canadian diamond journey from mine to market is as direct and as transparent as possible, ultimately benefiting you and your clients. And you should ask this of your suppliers and partners you're working with. I will do an overview of some of the tracking systems and challenges, as well as working with some of the manufacturers. As part of the Canadian diamond journey, it's crucial to conduct thorough due diligence. So I advise retailers to inquire about specific tracking systems their suppliers adhere to, rather than solely focusing on the brand names. It's important to know that despite advanced technology and tracking systems, we're dealing with a physical item. Ultimately, confidence and trust in your partners are essential, which takes time and effort to develop. So as previously mentioned, 90% of Canadian diamonds leave the country. These rough diamonds are sealed in boxes, issued Kimberley certificate processes, and sent to auction-specific houses. This is where my manufacturers, who operate larger cutting facilities in India, source their Canadian rough from Ekati, Vantyghem, and the Gahcho mines. So this stage necessitates robust tracking systems, responsible stewards to maintain the integrity of the process. When securely sealed boxes are opened, and the diamonds move down the supply chain. How I simply kind of categorize the tracking systems to meet the standards for me and my customers is I put them on a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 representing very minimal tracking to 5 representing very strict tracking. Factors that differentiate these levels include protocols for unsealing boxes, data control of rough to polished matching, third-party auditing systems, laser inscriptions, and custom certificates. Some tracking systems I adhere to is the Canada Mark program, which is owned by the Burgundy Diamond Mine, has a central office in Antwerp, and oversees data between rough and polished diamonds. Then you have the Serene Diamond Traceability Program, which actually utilizes rough to polished fingerprinting. You have the Diavik source, which is similar to the Canada Mark program. And then you have the Government of Northwest Territories, which are mine cut and polished in Canada, but only represents about 10%, so it's very minimal available on the market today. Then we have advanced tracking systems, including blockchain, which improves the diamond's traceability by creating a digital record from mine to market. While true blockchain systems offer increased security and transparency, it's important to acknowledge the inherent limitations in a perfectly linking a physical diamond to its digital counterpart. As a steward of Canadian Diamonds, I have the responsibility to scrutinize every aspect of the journey to ensure the most authentic experience for your clients. This commitment to transparency and authenticity is key to earning trust every day. So to this end, I've actually visited a lot of the cutting facilities in Surat and Mumbai. I kind of consider it my responsibility to trace that journey and confirming the chain of custody with the manufacturers I work closely with. These visits have actually provided invaluable insights on how the goods are tracked during the polishing process, allowing me to gain greater confidence in the overall system. And I do have to thank the young diamantaires. One of the trips I went on was with them, and they're true friends of our industry. So I always thank them for our support. And now, on the last leg of the journey, a Canadian diamond delivered to you with a Canadian certificate. This is the beginning of your story. So over the years, I observed that many retailers rely heavily on certificates and reports and association memberships to convey the Canadian diamond journey to their customers. While these elements are important, they should serve as supporting tools rather than the primary focus of your narrative. It's crucial to remember that you, as the brand, are the ultimate source of trust for your customers, not the paperwork and affiliations. These supporting documents and associations should be used to enhance your message and build a trust, but they shouldn't overshadow your authentic story or the diamond itself. I've noticed the over-reliance on documentation often led to a cluttered presentation, distracting from the diamond's inherent beauty and significance. To address this and help refine your customers' interaction, I developed the Diamond Authentication Plate System. This innovative tool allows you to showcase beautiful diamonds while simultaneously presenting a concise summary of the information we've discussed. The custom plate, which holds the diamond, provides talking points to corroborate your message and the Canadian diamond journey. The Canadian Diamond Certificate helps keep you focused on the diamond's beauty and brilliance while speaking to its journey. This marks the point where the Canadian diamond journey transitions into a personal journey between you and your client. This is where the diamond's significant meaning is truly beginning, potentially lasting for generations. There's nothing more satisfying than facilitating this connection and seeing it endure through time. So my hope is you have a better understanding of how Canadian diamonds journey from the remoteness of the Canadian diamond landscape, tracked through the supply chain, and in the shortest route possible, and ultimately land in your stores. That you work with all or bits of this information to tell your story and build your brand with your customers, and that you have the confidence in the origin of your diamonds. So we review from the edge of the Arctic Circle, some background on the 3 Canadian diamond mines, and how connected they are to the local indigenous population, the oversight the government and mines have on the wildlife and environment, and the positive impact on the economy and its remote location. Then on the way to you, and how Canadian diamonds are tracked and transformed, working with specific tracking systems in place with proper protocols and tracking. The importance of when diamonds leave Canada is that we have the responsibility and stewardship over them, also ensuring the shortest route and fewest hands possible that they travel through, ultimately delivered to you with a Canadian certificate, a piece of Canada that can be verified, a tool to enhance your brand, build trust, and a long-lasting relationship with your customers. It's the end of the journey, but the beginning of a lifelong legacy. So I just want to say thank you to the National Diamond Council and Raluca specifically. Thank you. And Grant Mobley, so I didn't go to the mines, but he did specifically, and so it was nice to talk to him and have a first-hand account. And as always, the support of the young diamantaires. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience?
So you have 90% of your rough going to India. Yep, but you have 10% polished in Canada. Why only 10%? Is that due to cost or size of stone?
Yeah, so actually the government of Canada requires 10% to stay within Canada, but for the cost of doing it, for the amount that is available, is not feasible to do that. So yeah, majority is going to India to cut. That's where the master skills is happening. Actually, the 5 rough that I did show you there, actually, that rough I actually sent to Botswana to get cut because of the facilities they have there, their access to GIA. And unfortunately, even though all the mines that we have in Canada, the infrastructure after that is not yet available. So wish I could do more, but hopefully in the future.
Are those stones then more expensive? Obviously.
Yes. Well, yes, because the cost of the labor that's in Canada as well. So yes, okay. And then the extra shipping going out to get certification. GIA is not in Canada, so it has to be shipped outside as well. So it's just more time and money, which adds up.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions? I'd have a question, Kevin.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, there's a
Here,
yeah.
This is for you here.
First.
Thanks for the great question.
So thanks, Kevin, for your presentation. I really learned a couple new things about Canadian diamonds. If you say, or in one video they said how what it means for the people to have work through the mines and everything like that. But is that their major source of income up there? Can you say that? That's like that made them prosperous regions?
100%. Yeah, I mean it's. I think. It's the largest, I guess, employer of the area is the indigenous communities there. So it really gives them the ability to have a lifestyle up there, and it's the major industry that's there for them. So yes, that would be correct in saying that.
So you add on to the beautiful diamond story if you put it that way.
100%. And
when you said the diamonds were a little more expensive, is there you can say 10% more expensive, 20% more expensive?
Well, it depends on who I'm talking to, Chris.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, you just have to think of the time and effort to go into tracking and tracing, just inherently having those extra layers, there's extra value there. So if you appreciate that value, it's not more expensive. You appreciate it and you will, work with that.
Okay, because I think the question, especially if retailers are here, it's not that much more that you can make up in retail easily if you put it that way.
So my business model is a little bit, I want to help the retailers sell Canadian diamonds. So if I can help put more funds in your pocket and move more Canadian diamonds, I will hopefully help with that. So on the market, it all depends on how much you want to add on top of that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have a question. What about demand for Canadian diamonds at retail or in terms of consumers? How patriotic are Canadian consumers? How is demand in Europe, Asia, the US? What's your experience with that and kind of trends?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, a lot of the Canadian retailers have had a lot of experience with Canadian goods, but I have to say, some stores are like they're just selling regular goods, but others have added it to their story. They understand the story, and if you can integrate that with your sales, pitch with your customers, it really does set themselves apart. So Canada, obviously, there's a big supply of that. Surprisingly, in the U.S., there are quite a few stores that do like us, based on everything that's going on right now. And I have to say, actually, in Bavaria and Germany, there's a great propensity for Canadian goods. Hence, a little bit why I'm here this weekend as well. So Europe, I'm seeing a larger trend. There's also a trend in Australia and in Japan as well that I'm seeing. So I'm just finding every year there's a buildup of it, and more discussions are being had about it. So I'm just seeing it grow every year.
Thank you. And my other question would be, because we have a panel on diamond traceability tomorrow, is what is your experience with retailers selling such diamonds at retail? What are consumers looking for? Are they looking for traceability? Are they just looking to know that it's Canadian origin and that's sufficient? Do they want to know every single step of what happens to the diamond, or is that too much granularity? What's your experience with that?
Yeah, so kind of going back to that plate, the authentication plate system I mentioned, 90% of the time they don't want to know all the little nooks and crannies of it all. They're there because, I work with independent retailers. They have a trust and a relationship with that customer, and they're trusting them. And so 90% of the time, it's enough to have that information. But I find as long as you're empowering the retailer and knowing of all the layers in case they are asked, they are able to convey that confidence. Once they convey that confidence to the consumer, having that plate or that certificate with those details to support that does help. But again, as I spoke, you don't want to take away from the real meaning of that diamond, and so that's why sometimes it can get a little bit too busy, and actually that could take away from the sale when you're offering too much for the consumer to consume, especially if the retailer maybe doesn't know all the layers to it. So, good question, though.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.